Recyclico, making lithium-ion last forever. Recyclico's patented recycling process achieves up to 100% recovery of battery metals from lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, and aluminum. Recyclico Battery Materials Incorporated trades on the TSX Venture AMY, on the OTCQB AMYZF, and Frankfurt ID4. For more information, visit recyclicode.com or phone us at 778-574-4444. Recyclico, making lithium-ion last forever.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mike Swanson, editor of WallStreetWindow.com. Welcome back to the show, Mike.
Oh, great to talk with you. Interesting market action for sure.
Gold and silver, what's happening there?
Well, I mean, we've seen a tremendous rally this year. Gold and silver have come alive. Back in March, when gold cleared $2,100, it cleared a resistance level that had been keeping it down for almost 2 years. The same was the case with silver, with $26 holding it down. And we saw a tremendous rally in both, and also the entire metals complex. Copper broke out and surged. Aluminum broke out and surged, and so forth. And so, of course, have the mining stocks. And I believe that this represents the start of a new bull market that's going to last for years. And historically, at the beginning of these type of secular bull markets, I don't mean one that's just going to last 2 or 4 years, but, maybe 6, 8, or 10, the big cap mining stocks start to come alive, and they're doing that. In fact, in the past 6 weeks or so, they're starting to outperform the price of gold. And now, when we've seen the gold go up to 2,400, and as we're speaking, it's around 2,300 after it broke 2,100, we're seeing a pause that started really a month ago. It's likely, to continue form a trading range with 2,400, the new resistance, and that's fine, and then break out again and go up. But when you see the first surge, people do pay attention, and then when you get the trading range, they kind of fall asleep. And I think that's what's going on. People in the United States, in particular, have zero interest in gold, silver, and the mining stocks. In fact, the GLD ETF, that is used in the most popular gold metals ETF, in the first quarter of this year, despite the tremendous March rally, it saw net outflows. More people in the United States in GLD were selling gold than buying it, which is amazing. And most of the buying isn't coming from inside the United States. It's coming from the rest of the world, and central banks are buying, and supposedly there's a lot of demand in China that's emerged in the metals and market accumulation. That's what you'll find if you do a search of stories about it. So Americans are selling their gold, and I guess silver too, to people in China and the rest of the world. But people in Canada probably aren't doing that. And if you're an American listening, you certainly don't need to be doing that either. In fact, now is the opportunity to look for mining stocks that can do, well over the next couple of years. And to give an example of what this all means, Newmont Mining had earnings just a few weeks ago, and it was trading at $37. And then by 2 days before the earnings release, and then the day of the earnings release, it closed at 44. So from 37 to 44, that's a big return. And now it's around 40. I do own it, I just say, but I own lots of mining stocks. So it went up 18%. And when they released their earnings, what they stated was that their earnings per growth, their revenue, is grown by a multiplier because of the move in the metals. And that's not yet, more mining companies are going to be announcing earnings, and we're probably going to hear more good news. So I think this is an exciting time for gold mining stocks. And now we're sort of in a consolidation breather moment. It could last a couple of weeks, even a couple of months, but that's fine. So I think this is really the opportunity year right now, or for the rest of the year, for that matter.
Also, although the price of oil has gone up, it's still below $100. Does that help with the profitable picture for the miners? Energy costs.
Oh, yeah, it does for sure. And that's one thing about that Newmont earnings report. It didn't have a big increase in production costs, which has been something that has plagued the mining companies for a long time, because the price of oil going up. But really, I'm skeptical that we're going to see the price of oil go above 100 anytime soon. It's probably going to be in the trading range too, which is fine for energy companies. I mean, Exxon, for example, was at a new 52-week high just a month ago. So I think the energy, sector is healthy in oil, with an oil price that, can trade between 75 or 80 and 90 or so.
Also, taking a look at geopolitical influences on the prices, Panama closing down a mine, Mexico looking at banning open pit mining. Would that not drive up the price of metals, and especially for silver, because that's one of Mexico's biggest exports?
Oh, for sure. And really, even though I'm very bullish on gold, I could say I'm more bullish when it comes to price potential, of gain on silver. And silver went up to 29 after breaking that $26 barrier. Now it's hanging around 27. Yeah, I think it's a great time to be buying silver and silver mining stocks, and to back up what you're kind of suggesting, the big cap silver miners, which I own a bunch of them, but they're outperforming the gold miners. So Wheaton Precious Metals, for example, is outperforming the GDX gold stock ETF. You look at something like Pan American Silver, it was at $14 just a few weeks ago, and now it's at 18.5. This is where the action is, these type of stocks. It's not in Bitcoin, which, it gets all, in the United States, it gets all the attention in the so-called alternative financial media on YouTube and so forth. But Bitcoin is sagging. Bitcoin's below 60,000. Bitcoin is lagging the NASDAQ. Bitcoin is lagging the price of gold, the price of silver. So if you happen to live in the United States, listening to this, in Bitcoin, I would suggest get out, buy silver, do it as fast as you can, because if you look at a chart over the past 7 years, yes, Bitcoin has big run up and run down. The price goes up and goes down, and we saw a big run from 25,000 in September up to above 72,000 in March. And these type of runs have happened before, but go and look at the charts, do some homework, and see what ends up happening when Bitcoin lags the action of the NASDAQ for more than a month, which is what it's doing now. Look and see what's happened over the next 10 months after such a situation materializes, because that's exactly what's going on. I know Bitcoin people, they want to hear the prediction it's going to go to 1 million, but I'm not going to say that just to make them happy but I'm not going to say something that's going to trigger them so they won't listen to what I say. Instead, I'm going to tell them to do their homework and look at the things for themselves and look and see what has historically happened when Bitcoin lagged the action of the NASDAQ. And I would suggest now's the time to get out and buy gold and silver, which is where the strength now is in these markets.
We'll have more with Mike Swanson right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mike Swanson. Getting back to gold and silver, I remember when I started these podcasts on How Street back in 2012, gold was considered nothing more than a pretty rock. And for years, people said, why even bother with gold? It's going nowhere. Nobody wants it. Nobody needs it.
Well, central banks want it, and they've been buying it. And they need it because they need it. They need it as a store of value. And people have to understand what that means. A store of value is something that's stable, so that when there are times of financial turmoil in financial markets, which includes stocks, bonds, and currencies, it won't crash with them. And it tends to go up because people look for safety. And really, one reason I think, way back when you're talking about, which is, I was in these markets too, that at that time, let's say 30 years ago, 20 years ago, or let's even say before 2020 even, there are alternative stores of value. From 1980 till 2021, in fact, the bond market acted as a store of value better than gold. Whenever the stock market would decline, whenever there was financial turmoil in the world, even if the U.S. stock market was stable and, say, the Greece blew up or Russia blew up in 1998, whenever there was financial instability, the bond market went up. The Treasury bonds went up, Canadian government bonds went up, and so forth. And people could get in that and get interest at the same time. And so they didn't need gold. But we're in a whole different world now, where in 2022, when the stock market went down, the global bond market went down too. So people who had a portion of their portfolios, 30, 40, 50% invested in bonds, because they were told by their investment advisors and they believed it themselves that that's a safe haven. Because it's been a safe haven that worked since 1980. It didn't work in 2022, and it's not going to work going forward because we're in a whole different world. And if people would look at financial history, it didn't work in the 1970s either. What worked in the 1970s was gold and silver, and that's what's working again. So that's why, people do need it in their portfolios. I've been talking in most interviews about how it's going to go up, or I think it's going to go up. But it's a necessity because the time will come again when the bond market goes down, and the stock market goes down at the same time, and you're going to need a safe haven. And Bitcoin's not a safe haven either, because when that happened in 2022, it crashed. And every time the stock market goes down 15, 20%, Bitcoin crashes because it's not a safe haven. It's a speculative instrument, which, if you get on the right side of it at the right time, you can make more money, but it's not what gold and silver are at all.
Well, I was going to say with gold and silver, even when the price goes down, you still have something valuable. It may not be worth as much, but it's still worth something, and people recognize it around the world. Bitcoin, one giant solar flare, and that entire complex could be wiped out?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Or you can have your Bitcoins on some exchange, and that exchange goes away, and then you have nothing. Which happened to millions of people around the world over the past couple of years.
Yeah, and ask the people who were dealing with Mr. Curly-haired Freed, Sam, I can't even remember his name. I just know the guy with the bozo clown haircut. Would you trust that guy with your money?
Yeah, I just read a really good book about that, actually, called Number Go Up. and it's about, he's a big part of the book. But one of the interesting, I'm not getting a little sidetracked, but it's an interesting story in the book is written by a Bloomberg reporter, and he found, I don't believe Bitcoin is a store of value. I don't believe it's money. People don't use it as money in the real world in a meaningful way. At least it's not replaced the dollar, the Canadian dollar, U.S. dollar, any other currency. But it is used in shady transactions. So what the author found was a place in Cambodia where they have basically tricked people from Vietnam and Thailand and surrounding countries to go there for jobs in a casino. When they get there, they're basically put in a hotel that's like a jail, and they can't leave, and they're forced to go on the internet and try to scam people, blackmail them or set up dating profiles and get them to send them money, just run all kinds of scams, and they always demand payment in Bitcoin. So because they think they can get away from the law, they don't need money wires or use bank transfers. So that's the real, financial use of Bitcoin besides pure speculation, which is what, most people use it for, speculation.
Apparently one of Cambodia's biggest money makers is online scamming. And yes, they literally kidnap computer experts and force them to work these romance scams and so on, investment scams, the grandma, I'm in jail and need bail money scams.
Yeah, it's all that stuff. And I didn't know, it's a real interesting book because they got pictures of the place they're doing this at, and, it's crazy. It's a sad story because these people literally are kidnapped and can't get out of there without trying to risk their lives. People have been murdered in the Cambodian government. They don't care. They just let it operate. I guess they're getting kickbacks or something is going on, but it shows the ugly face of Bitcoin when you realize how it's connected to this. It's really something else.
Well, they say just like when you buy illegal drugs, the people who brought you those drugs murdered people along the way between Colombia and here.
Yeah, someone did, and in the process of getting there, for sure, yeah.
Mike, anything else we should be keeping a close eye on?
Well, one thing I'm looking at, it's an interesting situation. There's always a new bull market somewhere, and gold and silver are the ones I'm investing in and trading, and really is the best way to make money. But I do see one starting as we're speaking in China. The Chinese stock market had been in a bear market for 2 or 3 years, and it's now breaking out. I believe it bottomed out, and it bounced up to the 200-day moving average in March, went sideways and consolidated, and as we're speaking, it's breaking out. Everything goes in cycles, and it looks like, to me, it's going to go up for the rest of the year, probably 2 or 3 years. I'm not an expert on the Chinese economy. I'm not suggesting people run out and buy Chinese stock, but a bull market in China, a better economy in China, is going to be bullish for commodities and gold and silver too, as a result, because they're part of the commodity complex. So that's something to keep an eye on, and no one is paying attention to what's going on in China. We've been, it's just what it is.
Mike, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you. Great to talk with you.
My guest has been Mike Swanson, editor of WallStreetWindow.com. If you have any questions for Mike, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter at House Street, or you can call it X. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at talkdigitalnetwork.com. HowStreet.com Radio is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.